ISIGAW Podcast. I'm Zaynah, your host, and with me is my co-host Gab. Today, we're tackling a major issue, the lack of policies to regulate carbon emissions in Davao and Mindanao, and how this affects communities that rely on natural resources for their livelihood.
That's right, Zaina. Climate change isn't just a global crisis, it is something we're already feeling here in Mindanao. Rising temperatures, unpredicted weather, and carbon heavy industries are making it harder for our farmers, fish folk, and workers to survive.
Now, what exactly is the problem? Now, I will explain to you what is carbon emission. Now, carbon emission refers to the release of carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. Now, carbon emissions comes from industries, transportation, and deforestation. And while these might seem like distant problems, they have real consequences. Our air is getting more polluted. Our weather is becoming more unpredictable, and our natural resources are suffering. But the ones who are most affected with the farmers, fisherfolk, and everyday workers who rely on nature to make a living. Now, why is it a major problem in Davao and Mindanao? In places like Davao and other parts of Mindanao, many industries operate with little regulations on their emissions, leads to number one, rising temperature and unpredictable weather. Farmers struggle with extreme heat, drought, and sudden heavy rains that destroy their crops. Number two, polluted air and water. Factories release harmful smoke and waste, affecting the health of people living nearby. And number three, declining fisheries. Warmer waters and industrial pollution reduce fish populations, making it harder for fishermen to earn a living. And number four, deforestation and land destruction. Illegal logging and land clearing for industries worsen carbon emissions, leading to landslides and flooding. This discussion connects to Karbon Dahan-Dahan, an advocacy pushing for stronger carbon regulations and sustainable practices in Mindanao. With us today are Theodore, a factory employee, Judd, a community member affected by carbon emissions, and Ledina, an environmental expert.
Before we begin, let's start with a quick game. Green or Gimmick? We'll mention an environmental solution and you'll say if it's a real solution or just marketing.
Now, Miss Ledina, you will be the one answering the question. Just say green or gimmick. First one, switching to a paper straws will help save the environment.
Gimmick. It helps reduce plastic waste, but it barely impacts carbon emissions. The bigger issue is industrial pollution.
Next, for Mr. Judd, transitioning to renewable energy in Davao and Mindanao can significantly reduce carbon footprints.
Green, but it's expensive. If the government provided subsidies, more households and businesses would shift.
Great insights, Miss Ledina and Mr. Judd. Now let's dive into our discussion. Miss Ledina, can you explain the carbon emission issues in Davao and Mindanao?
Mindanao has historically been rich in natural resources, but urbanization and industrial expansion, especially in cities like Davao, have led to deforestation, pollution, and high carbon emissions. Vehicles, factories, and illegal loggings are major contributors. Now, the problem? The laws regulating these emissions are not strong enough, especially here in Mindanao.
And how does this affect communities like Judd's communities?
In Davao, air pollution is getting worse. In rural areas, farmers suffer because erratic weather ruins their crops. Our river used to be clear, but now the color of the water is brown. They're filled with industrial waste. People are getting sick, yet we don't see enough actions from our leaders.
Now I see. That is why the river in Bangkerahan is always brown. Theodore, as someone who is working in a factory, what's your take or insight on this?
I see both sides. The factories provide jobs, but pollution is real. Some factories in Davao and other parts of Mindanao don't follow emission guidelines, and there's little oversight. We want greener solutions, but companies hesitate because shifting to cleaner energy is costly.
What an insightful take about the situation in the factory, Theodore. Now, Miss Ledina, I do have a question. What policies exist and why aren't they enough?
There are environmental laws in place, but enforcement is weak. Many industries continue operating without proper emissions control. In Davao, for example, carbon-heavy businesses still thrive because penalties are minimal. Mindanao has vast potential for clean energy, but investment in sustainable practices is low.
Oh, really? Now I deeply understand why there are such laws about this dilemma, but it's hard to implement it. Mr. Theodore, do you think stricter policies would work?
Yes, but companies need government incentives. If clean energy alternatives were more affordable, industries would adopt them.
Oh, okay. And Judd, do you think people in your communities are aware of these policies?
Not really. Many don't understand how carbon emissions connect to their everyday struggles. Education is key, so we need leaders who prioritizes climate literacy and community engagement.
Alright, let's talk solutions. Everyone, what can be done to address this crisis?
We need three key actions. First, stricter carbon regulations. The government should enforce penalties for industries exceeding emission limits. Number two, incentives for green businesses. Clean energy solutions should be affordable for companies and households. Lastly, public awareness campaigns. Communities in Mindanao should be informed about climate issues and how they can take action.
Industries should be held accountable, but they also need practical solutions. If renewable energy sources in Mindanao are made cheaper, more factories will switch.
And communities need to be part of policy making. Those who suffer should have a say in creating climate solutions.
So, the key points are accountability, support, and education. That's exactly what Karbon Dahan-Dahan is fighting for.
Now we've covered a lot today, and it's clear that the issue of carbon emissions is more than just an environmental problem. It's a crisis affecting real people in Davao and across Mindanao. Now, from our discussion, we learned that number one, industries are major contribution to carbon emissions, but without strong regulations or policies rather, many continue to pollute. Number two, communities are suffering. Fisher folks are catching fewer fish farmers. Number two, communities are suffering. Fisher folks are catching fewer fish. Farmers are losing crops due to unpredictable weather, and air pollution is making people sick. Number three, policies exist, but enforcement is weak. Businesses continue harmful practices because penalties are minimal, and many people are unaware of their rights to demand a change. Number four, solutions are possible, but stricter enforcement of laws is strictly encouraged. Incentives for green businesses and better education on climate issues can help reduce emissions. Wow, thank you so much for guests. Before we wrap up, let's do one step for change. What's one thing people can do today to help?
Push for stronger climate policies. Contact local leaders and demand for action.
If you work in an industry, push for eco-friendly policies in your company.
Support businesses that prioritize sustainability and reduce your personal carbon footprint.
Choose renewable energy sources when possible and educate others on the importance of emission reduction.
Now that's it for today's episode of Voices for Change. Carbon emissions aren't just a business issue. They affect communities, health, and our future. If we don't act now, Mindanao's natural beauty and resources will continue to suffer.
Thank you for our guests for sharing their insights. Follow Karbon Dahan-Dahan and stay involved. Together, we can slow down carbon emissions and protect Davao and Mindanao's communities.
Until next time, this is ISIGAW Podcast, and stay informed, stay involved, and be part of the change.